UFO 50 is a set of 50 games spanning multiple genres, presented as if they were recovered from a fictional console from the 8-bit era of gaming. This collection was developed by a small group of game designers, published by Mossmouth, and released in September of 2024. Shortly after its release, I made the realization, there's roughly 50 weeks in a year, right? Welcome to UFO 50. My name is Colin, and for the next year I will be playing and beating one UFO 50 game each week, starting with the first and ending with the last. Barbuta. Barbuta is a platformer, where, by the game's own description, you explore a trap-filled castle. As a quick side note, I love the menu setup in this game. They include little details about the games, like little blurbs on its fictional history and its original release date. And of course the controls. Besides moving left and right, there are only two controls in Barbuta: jump and attack. You attack with a tiny sword, meaning you have to get close and personal if you want to kill enemies. And like many games of the era, when you jump forward, there's no changing direction midair. They present you with a lot of information on screen that you have to figure out on your own. The game gives you no information on what you're even supposed to do, or how you're supposed to progress. They kinda just plop you into the world, and it's kinda eerie. No instruction, no music, nothing. If you play the game the way the developer expects you to, and you walk to the right, you pretty quickly figure out what the eggs on the right side of the screen mean. And while the falling ceiling may seem like a comical cheap shot, you can see the tile that triggered the trap. That texture is different, and now you know you need to keep an eye out for details. In this first room, you've learned how the life system works, and you have an inkling of what to expect the game is going to dish out to you, which is really cool and really smart game design. Except I turned around and went left. Now when I started this game, I didn't really like it, and honestly if I hadn't set up this challenge for myself, I probably wouldn't have played more than like 10 minutes of it. Your character movement is slow, your attacks are short range, some enemies take multiple hits to kill, enemies respawn when you come back in the room, you die in one hit, and if you run out of eggs, it's game over. No saves. You're starting from nothing. It is very reminiscent of the games of the era. I did like the funny little melty guys, but they do give you really vague hints. And there's a strange map with two moving symbols that I couldn't figure out for the longest time. And after my first time playing it, I thought that this could have been in an Angry Video Game Nerd episode. But after my second time playing Barbuta, I started to understand the charm. It's a game about exploration and just figuring things out. You find new rooms, you figure out where they go. You get new items and just mess around and find out what they even do. Your control scheme doesn't change when you pick up an item. You still just jump and attack. So unless you find a weapon, items just change how you interact with the world. And then you have to figure out what that change is. I remember finding the shop guy for the first time and buying an umbrella. I ran around trying to interact with things differently, thinking maybe I got a slower fall or a way to reflect bullets. Then on a different route, on a different run, I found this ladder with goo droplets that you couldn't dodge. The goo drops were a hazard in other rooms, but I hadn't thought to let myself get hit by them with the umbrella until seeing that ladder. It was during this game session that I played with some friends watching, and the shared excitement and theorizing elevated the game. Everyone had ideas on what things did, where to go next. We had found secret paths and breakable blocks, so what if you could push them or shatter the blue ones? One of my friends said that it reminded him of when he and his buddy were kids and they would share information about a game that they were playing. And the next day at work, all I could think about was, what is the optimal path I can take in Barbuta to get everything I need? The surprises were fun to encounter, and after a while I didn't mind dying as much. I went in with the mindset that each time I played, I would just try to find something new. One surprise that I found way later than I probably should have, I ignored the map entirely in the beginning because I didn't pay close enough attention to it and thought it was randomly moving the red square and the dot around. It wasn't until about 2 hours into the game that I ran into what I call the Scary Man. I literally yelled when he first appeared because I had run through this room many times before and had never seen him. He was a new scary threat that I somehow had not seen, and I just didn't know how he worked. I died to him shortly after in a different room, but my friend who was watching made the connection. The Scary Man was the dot on the map and I was the red square. And after we figured that out, he wasn't much of a problem, but he did get a good few scares in when I wasn't paying attention. I also found an Easter egg where the text in the starting room changes to Loungewear Rocks when you and the Scary Man are in there together. I'm still not sure what that means, but I'm sure there's many secrets in this game that I never found. After a good few hours of playing and figuring out a few puzzles, I did find the boss. I fought him, and I lost pretty bad. This is where I decided to look up a walkthrough. My initial goal for every game in this series was to figure out everything myself and get the real experience of the game. But there was a point where I spent a good amount of time trying to acquire an item, only to discover that all the item did was bypass a path blocked off by a key that I already had. It was at this point that it really occurred to me that the only items you needed to get to the boss were the key and this red necklace. You can fight the boss with any assortment of items you gather along the way. Ultimately, I found the way to the boss on my own, and the journey to that point was fun and fulfilling. If I'd spent another 3 or 4 hours in the game, I'm pretty sure I could have either beaten the boss through tedious brute force, or found one of the items that really helps in the boss battle. I do want to return to this game eventually, though. There are many doors, chests, and levers that I straight up never figured out how to get to them or what they did. The only secrets I know that I didn't find myself are the locations of 2 items that make the boss battle super easy. I want to give a shout out to the true epic gamer whose video, How to Beat Barbuta, helped me finish Barbuta. It was actually super satisfying watching his video because the first half of his walkthrough was already my normal routine that I had developed just from playing the game. I can imagine Barbuta is probably a game most people skip over, never finish, or just immediately look up a walkthrough to get the achievements. It's not super approachable, and it does a good job of replicating those quirks of games of the era. But with those quirks you get the exact experience intended. It feels rewarding to stick to it. You explore the same rooms over and over, you try different things, some of which don't actually help you. You get that little rush when something clicks, you have that aha moment. Overall, I enjoyed Barbuta. It's definitely not for everyone, but I had way more fun with it than I ever expected. I also got this little trap door for this little guy in this house. I don't know what he does exactly, but I look forward to filling out his house with more stuff. And I really look forward to exploring all the other games in this series. Alright, see you next week.